Welcome everyone, another edition of your favourite handicapping show, indeed the only handicapping show on UK television as I'm aware. Phil Smith is with us. You could probably hear him just then. He's here. Phil, you are here, aren't you? Was that just your signal call? Was that like a mating call?
That's just the sort of slight cough I have at the moment.
We should say that Phil will do his best, but you're a bit under the weather, aren't you? You have been for a long time now. It almost looks as though it could be, well, terminal would be the wrong word. But
people are hoping, yeah.
Well, I don't think they are. Great to have you with us. Of course, the biggest moment of your year happened just the other day, the Grand National Weights. Did you sleep the night before?
I did.
Did you?
I was pretty happy with them. I'd sort of been working on them for the previous sort of 10 or 12 days, and I was happy. I think they got a pretty positive press overall, one or two minor criticisms. But overall, I think I was pleased with it. It looks a strong race with some really good quality horses at the top of the handicap.
If you were pleased and you slept well the night before, when Silviniaco Conti hacked up at Ascot just a few days later, did you start to lose sleep?
Not at all. I was pretty happy with that. I mean, we want.
Were you?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, you want the horses that are entered in the race, certainly the top 50 or 60. You want them running, and you want them running well. The last thing you
want them chucked in, though, Phil?
Well, I don't think he's going to be chucked in as a result. He's going to be £6 well in as a result of his run the other day.
Don't you think £6 is fairly significant?
It's significant, but can he replicate over 4.5 miles at Aintree what he's done over 2.5 miles at Ascot? They're completely different tests. So I think he's still got it all to do.
So are you saying you wouldn't have risen, he wouldn't have gone up in the weights for the National even if he had won that race, on the basis of what you've just said?
No, if I was
completely different tests.
No. If I was he would have been higher. No question, he'd have been higher.
He couldn't have gone much higher, would he? Would he have been joint top weight?
He'd have been joint top weight.
Yeah. And he's got £2 from Many Clouds. All sorts of interesting contenders in here, but let's just deal with the top weight Many Clouds, because, as I said at the time, it's an annoying horse for you because effectively you like to compress the handicap, and this horse compresses the handicap for you, or stops you doing much playing with it. Is that fair?
Yeah, the only little minor change I made, I'm in the top 5, Many Clouds, Don Poli, Silviniaco Conti, Collingford, Lock, Valsalido. They were all compressed by £1. It's the smallest amount of compression that I've ever needed to do, and there didn't seem to be any point in doing any more than that. I mean, Many Clouds is top weight. He's also the favourite. Why give him any more of a chance than he's already got when the general public already think he's got the best chance?
Yes, that is Many Clouds the top weight. But there are interesting horses. One horse that we had a bit of a chat about, and certainly, I mean, we already know from previous shows that you run absolutely terrified of Gordon Elliott, who just seems to have you by the short and curlies and outwits you every other week. Uccello Conti. Now, this horse has had the benefit of a Grand National prep under Jacques Ricou, and Jacques, the old boy, has very much lost his sat-nav during this horse's Grand National prep, to the extent that he's run about 2 miles further than most of the other horses in his prep races. I mean, what's he doing here?
Well,
is he looking for better ground, or has he just lost his way?
Well, he's clearly looking for better ground, but there's plenty of other horses doing a similar sort of thing to him. He's only, there are 2 horses virtually alongside him, following the same route. Who's to say? I didn't walk the course. I wasn't there on that day. He may well have walked the course and believed that the ground was.
Where he's going now?
Maybe he believed the ground was better on the outside. He's not much further out than most of the other horses in the race. But clearly he runs a cracking race, and he's finished 2nd and 3rd in 2 really nice big Irish handicaps. So he's certainly a horse with a big chance.
Yeah, he's in about 8th place in the greenish colours at the moment. The Munir colours are Peace & Co with the white noseband. I can understand going wide on straights, but I can't understand going wide on bends.
Well, it's a little bit more difficult to. I don't think that British punters would be.
Look at him here, right-handed. Look at him.
I don't think British punters would be over-impressed with them, with the jockeys doing that on a regular basis. But he could have been under instructions. I'm not privy to that. Whatever, the horse has run 2 really nice races, and he's clearly got good chances.
We're looking at the horse on the extreme right now. As you can see, it is a very individual route. He might, of course, have had better ground, but look where he's going now. I mean, if this is for the handicapper, I mean, Did it for you, Phil?
Well, he's finished placed, and we put him up for that. So,
Ooh.
I don't think there's anybody's been fooled in any way, shape or form by him. But he's clearly a nice horse. He jumps overall.
Does seem to be still cruising as well.
Overall, he jumps well, and he's got a decent chance in the race, I think.
Yeah, that is certainly a fascinating. Even if it's not a fascinating Grand National contender, it's a fascinating horse in a handicap.
He is fascinating. I mean, I suspect he may well run in other handicaps as well, possibly before then. So we'll see how he gets on.
Yeah, it could be the next Diamond King. Because of course you had great fun with Diamond King, didn't you?
Well,
your nemesis.
No, I think
he got it right.
He actually won, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
he did.
Yeah, and then did you put him up again?
I did put him up again. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's another story. We're concentrating on the Grand National. What about Boston Bob on his own? I mean, they're old boys. It's hard to believe that they could go in, isn't it?
Well, obviously they both ran really nice races the other day.
What's he gone up, Boston? He was 155.
Boston Bob's a 151 in the National, and he's now on 155, so he's technically £4 well in. And what do we know about Boston Bob? We know he's fit, we know he's in form, and he's jumped well in the race.
Did Boston not go up for the Fairy House win? Surely he ran off 155 when he won.
No, he in the Grand National he's on 151.
Yeah, but he won off 155 at Fairy House.
He didn't win off anything because it wasn't a handicap, right? So
yeah, but he had an official rating going into that.
He absolutely had an official rating, but it was different from my figure for him for the Grand National.
Oh, because you dropped him what?
I dropped him,
right?
Because his form had been moderate.
So you had chucked him in anyway.
So I had him on 151. So when he won the other day, I put him back up £4.
But not in the National.
But not in the National, no, because the weights are frozen.
But hold on, I think you've got confused, Phil.
No, I haven't.
You didn't put him up £4 because he was 155.
No, he's running.
No, he was 151 in the National.
Yes.
But away from the National, he's 155, or at least he's 155 in Ireland.
Not in my ratings. He's 151 in my ratings, and that's why he's running off 151 in the Grand National.
Okay, well, to name a website, on the Racing Post website, it says he ran off an official rating of 155.
He didn't.
Is that wrong?
He didn't run. You only run off a rating when you actually run in a handicap. Right?
But every horse goes into a graded race with a rating.
It has a rating, but doesn't actually run off it. Right? Running off the rating means that's the rating that's been used to calculate your weight. The Bobby Joe that he ran in was not a handicap.
I may be being thick here, but you dropped him £4 for his national mark, which means that away from his national mark, he must have been 155.
He'd have been 151 if he'd entered in a Cheltenham handicap.
But then you didn't drop him £4 then?
I'm really struggling to understand your point.
Okay.
He's on 151 in the Grand National.
Yes.
That's his figure. That's what he would run off in England in any handicap before the Bobby Joe the other day.
Right.
Once he won the Bobby Joe, I put him back up £4.
But in the newspaper on the day of the Bobby Joe, he was rated 155.
I can't be responsible for what's in the newspaper. Sorry.
I think you've got confused.
I haven't. Not in any way, shape or form.
But
he's now £4 well in the
So
National.
are you saying Faheen doesn't have an official handicap mark?
He certainly has an official handicap mark in Ireland.
But you haven't given him an official handicap. So you couldn't come in here and say Faheen's a 178, but you do all the time.
He's not our horse.
But you tell me Dawn Cossack's the top-rated chaser in training all the time.
That's purely the performance figure that we think he's achieved this season. It's not his handicap mark. We're not. It's not our job to give Irish horses handicap marks unless they're entered in British handicaps.
But in the international classifications...
That's a whole different thing at the end of the year.
Right, but during the season...
We're not there. Through the season, it's purely on its performance figure, what it's achieved, and its best performance through the particular season that we're in.
OK. I don't think it's just Gordon that's got you today. I think I might have got you by the short and curlies as well.
Unlikely.
Another man has got you by the short and curlies. Our very own Kevin Blake has basically gone close to psychopathic with you in various places. This is what he says about Ask the Handicapper. He says, you said at the Grand National Weights launch that this was by some considerable difference the highest quality entry ever for the Grand National. Could this be anything to do with the fact that the numbers of horses rated 140 plus has gone through the roof in the last decade? Why has this happened, especially, of course, when there are less horses in training? The basic accusation in layman's terms, for those who are already slightly confused, Phil, is that effectively these horses are only the highest rated because you have upped the ratings of horses to make them look better than they are.
Well, first of all, let's talk about handicap ratings per se. Handicap ratings are only important in terms of the relativity of horse A to horse B. So if a horse is rated 142, another one is 148, it's the relativity, there's a £6 differential between the two of them, and that's the important point, whether they're 142 to 148 or 172 to 178. Have the ratings over a period of time gone up slightly? They definitely have. And the reason for that is that if you think during the recession, that there were far more people disinclined to own horses rated 75, 80, 90. They were the horses that by and large owners decided not to carry on with. And as a result of that, we stopped running 0 to 85s in Britain. We stopped running 0 to 90s. We stopped running 0 to 95s. The lowest rating now that you get is a 0 to 100. And as a result of that, that's inevitably going to cause some degree of a rise in the ratings. And that's happened pretty much over the last 2 or 3 years to a great extent. However, it's not relevant in the sense that horse A and horse B, it's the relativity of them in terms of a handicap. It doesn't matter whether they're 142, 148, 122, 128. As long as there's a £6 differential between them, that's the difference they'll carry in handicaps.
But it is relevant. It is relevant if you...
Let me finish my point.
Well, I will in a minute.
No, let me finish the point.
OK, you can finish.
At the top level, there's still not a great deal of difference. Because if you look at the top level, at the best horses over a period of time, in 1999-2000, the first year of the Anglo-Irish, Istabrac was rated 176. Last year we rated Faheen 174. If we had massive increases all the time, why is Faheen not rated 5, 10, 15, 20 pound higher than Istabrac? In 1999-2000, Limestone Lad was rated 171. And in 2014-15, Jeski was 169. So again, the Jeski is £2 lower than the best horse was 14 or 15 years ago. Looks Like Trouble was rated 174 in 1999-2000 and Don Cossack was 175. Now in that intervening time we've had loads of horses considerably higher. Denman's been on 182, Corto Star's been up in 190, Long Run's been 182. But if you look at the level of the best horses last year, the Conegrees of this world, 172, you know, that's perfectly in the norm with what the top horses have been over years and years and years.
Couldn't it be that there are so many average graded races now that you've almost been forced to increase these ratings to get horses into them?
Well, you're never forced to put horses up to get them into races.
Well, maybe you're doing it unintentionally.
That'll just happen automatically. I mean, if horse A runs against horse B and it runs well, then it's clearly there's a chance that it's going to go up. But at the same time, we're also dropping horses. I mean, people talk a lot I've spoken a lot about 10, 11, 12-year-olds. But you only need to read the very good article by James Pyman a few weeks ago in the Racing Post, which showed that the success rate of 11-year-olds is perfectly acceptable nowadays. Well, we must be doing something with 11-year-olds to get them competitive with all these horses that have got highly inflated ratings.
Are you surprised, though, that there are so many more when there are less horses in training?
Well, am I surprised? I suppose I'm not massively surprised. Last year there were 133 French breds who were included in the Anglo-Irish jumps classification. That's hurdle and chase. So 133 of them. Now I'm guessing, but 10 years ago there'd be more like 33. So, and not a day goes by without an agent or a trainer emails me asking for a French rating. Now they're not asking me for French ratings rated 75, 77, 79. They're all asking me for ratings rated 135, 140, 145. People want higher quality horses. So there's absolutely no question there are higher quality French breds coming now, and they also the other very
there are less French breds.
There are more high quality French breds coming Europe now, and so Britain and Ireland, than ever. And you only need to look at Rich Ritchie and the French breds that he's now got. I mean, 10 years ago, he wasn't, you know, on the horizon, and Mullins hardly had any French breds. You look at his stable now, full of really high-quality French breds, bought at the end of their 3-year-old career, possibly bought at the end of their 4-year-old career. So we've our agents and our trainers, both Britain and Ireland, have taken a lot of the really high-quality, potentially good quality French breds, and British and Irish racing has been the beneficiary of it.
Yeah, the graphic on screen showing the origin of horses rated 140 plus, the difference between 2006, 7 and 14 and 15, and particularly from France, you notice 31.8 goes to 25% in 14, 15. Mm-hmm. You surprised, Phil?
Sorry,
are you surprised by any of these statistics at all?
I'm not surprised by any statistics, because they're only the statistics
the
that
problem,
we've got ourselves.
The basic thing, though, Phil, is you've got a problem, haven't you? Because you would stand up every year at the Grand National. You cannot stand up and say, this year's race is £10 inferior to every other one, because I've raised them so much.
It's certainly not inferior.
No, but you can't. You could never do that.
Let's just look at last year's.
It's always got to be better.
Let's just look at last year's winner, Many Clouds, and compare it with the very first Grand National that I did, which was won by Bobby Joe. Right? Bobby Joe won from a stone out of the handicap. Right? Mm-hmm. That's just not going to happen nowadays. I don't think anybody's going to try and say that Bobby Joe is anywhere near as good a quality horse as Many Clouds. I don't think that Bobby Joe is any near as good a quality as Hedge Hunter, as Neptune Collonge. And all of the winners that we've had in the last 10 years, they're significantly better horses than Bobby Joe was back in 1999. You know, horses now would not get a run in the National from a stone out of the handicap, and they certainly wouldn't be winning.
So do you really honestly believe the quality is better now?
I know the quality is better now.
Okay. You don't believe that there's a slippage upwards?
Well, uppage, I suppose you'd call it.
Uppage.
Sluppage. Is there an increase in terms of the median height? Yes, there's no question that's true. I agree that. But it doesn't cater for anything like the quality of the horses that we've got in the Grand National this year.
So final question on this, would Fahine and Don Cossack have the same rating 10 years ago as they have now?
Yes. And you only need to look at that to see it. I mean, Fahine, we rated Fahine 174 at the end of last season. We rated Istabrac 176. If there'd been, you know, monumental uppage, why would we not have Fahine on 185, 190, which we haven't done? You know, you only look at the previous year's top horse, Jeski 169, Istabrac 176, Hardy Eustace 170, Binocular 173. So if you look at that top level, those ratings are perfectly in sync with the sort of quality of animals that we've had in the past.
Yeah, I think Kevin might think you've wiggled your way around the...
No, I've answered the question really well.
Well, he might not think that. He might think you've wiggled like a little worm around. Right, what we're going to do is take as many questions as we can after this break. We've got loads of good ones for you, Phil. That was one of the easier questions. We've got some tough ones for you after this.